go. All right, so I'll call the meeting to order, and like we've done in the past, we don't really have easy access to a flag, so we'll just do the pledge next time we meet together. So first thing on the agenda is elect board officers for the 2020-2021 school year. So we can do this either individually or as a group, or however anybody wants to make a nomination.
I think that Jason and Mike have been doing a really good job, and I think that this might not be a great year for changing things up too terribly much at one time. So I would elect Jason Reddick as board chair and Mike Reynolds as vice chair. And anybody else can do secretary. I didn't even think about that one because I didn't think we did that anymore.
All right, so we have a nomination for board chair and vice chair. Any other nominations that are out there for either one of those positions? All right, I guess we can do those two together, and then we'll come back to the board secretary. So might think about that. And I'll just, like I've done before, go through the screen individually so that we can have all the votes recorded easily. So we'll go with those in favor of Jason Reddick as board chair and Mike Reynolds as vice chair, and we'll start with Joe Kennedy.
Yes.
Okay, we got Joe as a yes. We'll go with Jenny Daniels next.
Yay.
All right, and Mike Reynolds
Yes.
and Jim Gorley,
Yes.
and then Chance Keeney.
Yes.
All right, that's all the board members we have here, so that one passed. So we'll go with any nominations for secretary.
I would nominate Deborah Brown to continue doing it.
I'll second it.
All
The
right,
only
any
question-
other
The only
nominations?
question I have, did she say that she would do it?
Yes, she did.
Okay.
All right, any other nominations? Okay, we'll go around the room again. Joe Kennedy,
Yes.
all right, Jenny Daniels
Yes.
and Mike Reynolds
Yes.
and Jim Gorley
Yes.
and Chance Keeney.
Yes.
All right. So we got that all out of the way. Do we have any agenda approval or any agenda changes that we need to make beyond what the last one that was sent to us?
No.
Okay, anybody else have any possible changes?
I move we approve the agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the agenda? All right, we'll go around the room again. So Joe Kennedy
Aye.
and Jenny Daniels
Aye.
and Mike Reynolds
Yes.
and Jim Gorley
Yes.
and Chance Keeney.
Yes.
And I also am a yes. So we haven't received any public comments, have we, Julie?
No, we have not.
So, okay. So certified and classified representatives, I see Elizabeth Hunt here.
Hi, I have no comments for today. Just hanging out. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. I know it's your summer off, and I appreciate you putting in the time to join the meeting too. So thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. I don't see Velma here. So We'll see Velma here, so I'll go ahead and move on to the superintendent's report. Tom, I'll let you take it.
Okay, can you hear me all right? Okay, tonight in my report, I'll bring together, I have two areas to focus on. It's the Oregon Department of Education and the county health authorities requirements and guidelines and our own Sweet Home work thus far. Our goal is in reopening on-site learning. We want to the maximum extent possible while following the COVID county and state guidelines to keep our students and staff, families, communities as safe as possible. We want all students back in our buildings. However, the health and safety guidelines set by the Oregon Department of Education and Linn County health authorities set strict requirements and guidelines for social distancing, learning spaces, bus occupants on a bus, and how we enter and exit buildings, rooms, requirement of strict cleaning and so forth. So the likelihood that all K through 12 students being served normally face-to-face in buildings every day, 5 days a week, it is unlikely. And I'm going to go through some of the models that we're creating. And also as an example, what's going on regionally, for instance, Lebanon just released how they will, their schedule, weekly schedule. And right now they're looking at having grades K through 1 back for a half-day schedule and grades 2 through 12 returning every other day on a modified schedule. I talked to the superintendent of Albany. They're looking at a K through 2 back 4 days a week, grades 3 through 12 on a modified schedule, A-B schedule, so 50% back at a time. Wednesdays, they're reserving for attending to a distance learning, at-risk students and prepping for both learning formats, site learning as well as distance. And so depending on the resources and capacity across the nation and state districts, are looking at typically a range of about 25% to 75% of students back in class every day. Many of the schedules I'm analyzing look a lot like Lebanon's and Albany's. Variables such as classroom square footage, number of buses, length of routes, number of total employees are just some of the factors that districts are calculating in their capacity. In Sweet Home, we're building hybrid on-site schedules to maximize our resources based on the students, families that we're serving, while also creating a hybrid distance learning platform that I'm going to talk a little bit about tonight for our families to accommodate their health factors, concerns about going back to site learning only. So we're going to have two options available for our community. And we're going to I'll be able to show you the flow in between the site and the distance learning option. The following, which I'm going to use my screen to show the reopening guidance that we're prepared tomorrow to share with staff and students. There'll be a survey also linked to this reopening information, and we'll be able to have surveys coming in based off this introductory to our community. We want to use good data to look at and prepare for exact weekly and daily schedules. I feel right now it's too early to make a call on just, for instance, K through 1 students back. I know our data. I want to look at our data and see if we can do a little bit better than that. Hopefully a lot better than that. And it's going to be based on data. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully it'll come up. And I can show you what we're prepared to put out tomorrow. Can everybody see my screen? Maybe a thumbs up if. Okay, thank you, Julie. Okay, so we have about 8 slides here that I'd like to go through in our return plan. The first screen here is a timeline We're basing some of our decision-making on reopening on the surveys that we did at the end of the school year, closed on June 25th. We're going to do another survey asking parents their preference for distance learning or site learning. We're going to close that survey around the 24th. This will give us good information because obviously the more parents that opt for distance only, it can increase potentially our capacity to serve more grades on site. So that's going to be good data for us to analyze. The board can expect at our next school board meeting, we're required, school districts are required to put forth our blueprint plans for board approval. The local county or Lynn County will also see our blueprint plans for reopening, and they will approve also of our state of readiness, and we will be inviting Lynn County authorities in prior to the board meeting. So when we come to the board, you'll see a finalized product and authorization from the county. Then we anticipate around August 10th for families to finalize some of their preference for either a hybrid on-site or distance only option. And then we'll be putting forth schedules for students the last week of August. And here we have school begins. Notice I did not put an exact date. I anticipate coming to the board next month with a possible modified calendar proposal for the board to consider. As an example, we may want to consider some extra professional development days for our teachers as we're preparing for a COVID year. And I can explain a little bit more as we go what that may entail. This next slide for parents in the community, this portion over here goes through the basics of the ODE guidance for our schools. So our operations, we will be using physical distancing, social distancing. The ODE requires us to provide a 35 square foot space per person, including staff in our classrooms, approximately 6 feet apart. The board will remember that last year these were some of the stipulations that we were talking about then. Students also must be in stable to the maximum extent possible cohorts, meaning, excuse me, that we're going to keep students clustered with the same group. I'll use my son, who's in 3rd grade at Foster Elementary, as an example. He'll be going into 3rd grade, so he should be staying with that class of, say, 25 students or 23 students, depending on what we can put in the classroom. And by the way, our classrooms, Josh will report later, we've measured them all, and we understand the capacity and square footage that we can anticipate per classroom. But for the sake of this conversation, he will be with those students during the course of the day, 35 square feet apart, each having their own space, and teachers will come in instead of students rotating. We don't want my son Thorson to migrate over to all 330 students. So this is what the state's requiring, cohorting our students in our learning group, excuse me. Also, we will have to, the community should know we'll have to stagger arrival and departure times per guidance. Obviously, we want to reduce the interactions of our students. Also, for our high school, we should know cohorting there will look like students being in the same group and teachers and content areas rotating to the students rather than students rotating to a 7-period day, as an example. We must keep track of students using other rooms such as restrooms. There'll be protocols for signing in, signing out. This is all for contact tracing ability. We should know that volunteers and non-essential guests will not be allowed in schools during this COVID time period, And clean, sanitizing protocols are extremely heightened, and Josh can talk a little bit about that when we get to the facilities report. Greatly enhanced here. This isn't a guideline for ODE, but it is something that we're doing. I want the board to know that we are going one-to-one. All students K through 12, we will equip with a Chromebook or a tablet for classroom use, as well as distance learning use. This section here, the current health and safety standards, I want the community and the board to know students exhibiting symptoms, they will go home. We will ask parents to pick up those students. They must stay home for 72 hours. Those are the stipulations. Students will be visually screened upon entering a school and isolated as soon as possible if they have symptoms. Staff working within 6 feet of students will be required to wear face coverings. We will follow regarding students ODE and OHA covering guidelines. And for example, we have links here for our parents to look up what guidelines are. And we wanted to provide the links because, for instance, today, even the governor at 11 o'clock changed some of these requirements, as you may know, regarding these stipulations. So we want to stay current, and we have the word current up here so families know that things can change. And we will create lesson plans and protocols. So we are constantly working on washing hands. I'm almost through, and then I'm sure there's questions on this section, but let me, if I may, go through some more slides here. Transportation, it's a major challenge for all school districts across the state, across the nation. There are requirements for transporting students. We need to visually screen for symptoms for each bus every day. So those routes are going to take longer. We're going to have to equip buses with an extra person on the bus to help facilitate this. Drivers must wear masks or face shields. And we want, to the maximum extent possible, keep our students 3 feet apart. That's the guidance currently. This is being analyzed currently because it's a major obstacle in terms of getting as many students back as possible. For an example, our buses range from anywhere from 60 to 72 kids on a bus. And with these stipulations, we could be looking at 15 to 20, which really brings down our capacity to be able to bring kids to school. What are we doing about it right now? We're tackling every variable. You've probably seen that we've been advertising for bus drivers. We've offered an additional stipend for bus drivers. We have 14 currently to run. We have 30 buses. If we can increase the amount of drivers, we can bring more kids to school. Also, if we analyze safe protocols to put occupants on a bus, that's another variable that we can perhaps bring more kids to school. The other variable is to analyze our routes and to perform more routes. For instance, Lebanon is running 3 routes during the course of the day. Food service, K through 12, we will continue to supply meals for our students, whether they're at home or at school. We'll be using safe protocols, prepackaged utensils, napkins, and so forth. Again, the protocols are not to have kids assemble. For instance, I'll use my son again, in the cafeteria, all 350. We will probably be feeding kids in classrooms, or very small cohorts will go through the cafeteria, then clean the cafeteria and bring in another cohort. So those, for instance, are our options. At this point, I want to get into the instructional options, but I just gave a bunch of information that I know I've shared with the board via emails that I've been updating you with different ODE regulations and guidelines. Are there any questions at this point? Can you still hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Instructional options. Okay, so we name this on-site hybrid because I really want folks to know that opening up regular traditional, that's not going to happen. I want to be very clear with the community. What we're looking at for our on-site hybrid for K through 6, our teachers will be assigned to their regular teachers. For instance, Thorson, my son, will be assigned to his 3rd grade teacher. He will stay with that group of students all day. He will be provided with a one-to-one device, so he can also communicate with the teacher in class through that device and turn in his material, his lessons with that device, as well as if he should be sent home because of a cold, flu-like symptoms, mandatory 72 hours, he can still keep up with class. At the high school level, students 7 through 12 will be assigned a cohort. They'll remain with the same students, and our content teachers will rotate to the classes. Students will not rotate through the school. We will have to work with our CTE classes, our shop classes, to figure out how we can get kids into those spaces, clean those spaces, make them safe, and so we can get other students in. It'll most likely be on a limited basis to operate machinery and whatnot. There again, our students will be provided one-to-one devices for learning at school as well. Again, I wanted to let the parents know that we really are looking at a capacity of somewhere between 25 to 75%. Obviously, I'd like to see 100%, but with the guidelines, all task force to be able to perform. The distance only option, I want the community to know that we looked at surveys, and I know the community they were satisfied in many ways, and the teachers did a fantastic job, but we know we could provide more rigor. Our units could be more systematic, and so that will not repeat itself. What we did in the spring, we did a good job, but we have a new model that we're going to roll out with a Canvas learning platform that will use K through 6 and we'll use 7 through 12. And I have more information on Canvas here in just a second. I want the community to know that distance students are part of Sweet Home Family. They're part of their schools. They're with their teachers. It's not a standalone. So there's going to be that direct connectivity, and they may also participate in athletics and activities should we be able to have those activities. And I want the board to know I do not have a report on athletics tonight. I don't think anybody does at this point. We're working on getting back to school those protocols. Also, this system here from live to distant, we will be able to do if, for instance, the county or the governor shuts us down for 14 weeks, 3 months. We'll be able to use this Canvas system to go back and forth. Or like I said, if a class perhaps is quarantined for 14 days, that's why there's cohorting. You can take one group, isolate them, quarantine them, and we can still serve them using this Canvas system. Canvas, why Canvas? Like I said, parents will be able to read this. I want them to know this is a great learning platform. The colleges use it. Lebanon is looking at buying it. Albany is looking at buying into it. Corvallis already has. We did. So it's a unified learning format. We know our teachers were also frustrated with planning and organizing. So this format will allow us also to do better planning and organizing. I'll talk a little bit about more of that in a second, but I just want to continue on with just our services. We want the community to know that we'll continue to provide our counseling service, our wellness teams, our resource officer will be available. We will continue our partnerships I do not have a report at this point on Boys and Girls Club or our community learning centers, but out of the Boys and Girls Club, they too are working on opening guidelines. I am working with Chris Latimer regarding our connectivity. She's still working through things. We will continue to be connected. Students will be connected to McKinney-Vento. That's our homeless support for homeless students. And we will be the students will be connected to the athletic and activities that we have. The final slide will take the parents to this flow chart, if you will, and they can connect. Let's see if this works to our survey. I wrote a little introductory to the survey. The survey has, I explained to the community that normal face-to-face in every building 5 days a week. I want to be straight with them. For all students is highly unlikely. I wanted to explain to the community that between 25 and 75% of the students back every day. We want to be up around 75. But that is pretty normal, what's going on with all the variables that we're working with. School districts are working with: square footage, number of buses, length of routes, total number of employees, many factors that we're calculating. We're going to examine hybrid services and an amount of students that will go into distance services, and that will help us make decision-making models of whether we could go K through 4, K through 6, how many students can we get back on a more full-time basis. They'll go to this and they'll answer. Let's see if we can get to that. Next slide. They'll be able to review the two options, and then they'll be able to customize. Let's say if they have a couple of students, one at Foster, and the parent would want to on-site learning for that student. Let's say they have another student at the high school, they have 2, and they would prefer a distance learning for that student. I won't hit next because I think that automatically uploads data that will not be true. Are there questions at this point?
Actually, Tom, I have a couple.
Sure.
Number one is, according to the numbers I've been reading on internet service, how can we look at providing a better internet service for the kids? And have we reached out to some of the businesses about partnering and using their facilities, maybe to use them where we could stream not full access to the web, but partial access so kids could do their homework?
Yes, we have. In fact, there's a number of things that are in development behind the scenes. I'd love to talk about that as well. So the answer to looking at providing access for our families in Sweet Home, many things we're looking at for those who don't have access. We're working with the city right now in a grant using actually a city hotspots or access points to broadcast internet services. So for instance, it's the city hall, something called the Flex Building, City Library. We're working with the city for us to be able to use their network, and we would supply some of the connectivity and maintenance so we could broadcast internet service through them. The other thing we're working at, our IT department is looking at local businesses. Jim, you're absolutely correct, to see if they can help partner with us as well. We're looking at phone companies and partnering or working with parents to see if their provider will help as well. There's a number of reduced cost services out there that we would like to have help parents access for those living outside the city limits. And then, of course, you've probably heard of other districts using buses to load up, to facilitate hotspots as well. So, Jim, that's absolutely on our mind. Other infrastructure stuff we're doing is we just ordered 400 more Chromebooks. We've ordered increased capacity at our elementary schools, our bandwidth capacity, so we can stream and access the internet, and it won't get sluggish. We're also looking at buying an additional server so we can store video and content with this plan. Does that answer some of the questions, Jim?
Yes, I was wondering about that, and because Chromebooks don't hold a lot of capacity, if there was a way to have their homework put on sticks or on something else where they could just pick it up, take it home with them, and put it in, and then have a limited time on the internet for broadband.
Correct. We're looking at that as well. Canvas allows for that as well, as we can we can have students come in, distant students come in, load up content, take content home, work on that, come back to school. For instance, be in a parking lot, if you will, download the content back to the teacher, and then we can do that as well. Or, like you said, use thumb drives to exchange information. All those are on the table and we're looking at.
I've been listening to everything people are doing all around the state, and those are some of the things that they're talking about. So,
yep. I think I stopped screen sharing. Is it my face again?
Yep.
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. I just want to share that we have a big goal here in Sweet Home with this initiative. It'll be a Sweet Home built virtual learning connected directly to teachers, schools, and classrooms. Some of the stuff that we're doing behind the scenes currently is we have the district office right now. Our directors are building a pre-designed framework. And what we're going to do is we're going to have our teachers, a set of teachers, one from each grade level. Junior high will have 4 content areas, and high school will have 4 content areas. They're going to come in the first 3 weeks of August. And our big goal is to build a complete semester's worth of core content using Canvas. So that team of teachers will help support the rest of the teachers. So when they arrive, they will have as turnkey as possible organized lessons, assessments there for their use. We anticipate we will train the rest of the teachers to this, but we have a core set of team that's really good. They're going to come in and build this thing. Then we're going to use our Wednesdays to continue to build the learning platforms for spring semester. This is the goal. So if you can imagine organizationally what this would look like is we will build content for years to come, K through 12, foundational content for our kids. So it's a pretty lofty goal. And I think it'll, through difficult, challenging times, smart planning, we could be in a better place overall post-COVID by working together as a team using Canvas, and we'll be able to continue use it. And perhaps we'll be able to invite kids back to Sweet Home that have chosen online schools elsewhere, currently. So it's a big goal. It's a big audacious goal. And imagine what this would look like. Go back to, say, my son's class. If we have X amount of students that choose distance, okay, and then in his classroom, maybe that's now reduced. If his classroom is 26, maybe 6 to 7 students choose distance. The teacher's working with my son. Maybe the kids in the classroom are communicating also through Canvas or Zoom, the kids that are distance. And so we can have this constant connectivity during the course of the year, it'll be much superior to the packet work. We can give parents and students live grading feedback. Canvas is also, it has an app that parents will be able to have on the phone to track attendance, work, and so forth. So it's a big goal at a difficult times. I think this is a good plan, and post-COVID, I think we can accelerate out of this challenging time and put Sweet Home in a place of both site and distance learning for years to come. That's my report. Are there questions? A lot of information.
Any questions? Okay. All right, I don't hear any questions, so I guess we'll move on. Next, we have the consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Jim. I was just wondering how long it was going to take me to get through all 29 of those items.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we got Jim motion and Mike seconded. Can we get the screen back to where I have everybody in it? I don't know. That way I can go through and make sure I'm not missing anybody on the vote here.
Jason, you'll just need to go up to the top of your screen.
There we go.
Got it? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I found it. I found it. Thank you. All right, so we got a motion and a second for the consent agenda. We'll start with Joe Kennedy. How do you vote?
Aye.
All right, and Jenny Daniels
Aye.
and Mike Reynolds
Aye.
and Jim Gorley
Aye.
and Shan Skeeney. I think that was an aye. Your microphone's off. Got a thumbs up from Chan's.
Aye.
All right, and I also am a yes. So the consent agenda passes. With that, I will also declare that we have Angela's seat open at this point. So Julie, you can start advertising for somebody to fill that. We can take applications for that. And if anybody has anybody that is from the Crawfordsville area that they know that might be interested in that seat, definitely encourage them, talk to them, try to get them in because we need a full board to function properly. So, all right, next budget update, bond safety information and work share. Kevin, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Jason. I will begin just talking about the fiscal year that just finished on June 30th. For the general fund, we expect to end the year with an ending fund balance that is just a hair above 4.5% of the total general fund. That includes savings from the spending freeze and also from the work share furlough days. Shifting gears to the upcoming year, or the year that we just entered, 2021, we expect a special session later this summer where the state will tackle the budget shortfall. As far as the impact on K-12 education, and what we're hearing, and this is from State Representative Marty Wild, who serves an area that includes Crawfordsville and Hawley. He published this morning. He says that he is committed to the existing $9 billion baseline funding for K-12 schools. In addition, he hopes to fund investments both in equity and also career and technical education, which I would take to be Measure 98 programs. He said that we had hoped that revenues would be sufficient to fully implement the Student Success Act in 1 year, but it looks like the virus will force us to stretch that out to 3 to 5 years. So this is pretty much in line with what we had budgeted if this holds true, and we should know more when that special session takes place. Shifting now over to the bond project on the spending side. At this point, everything is going smoothly and the finish line is in sight. Currently, Josh, Tom, and I are looking for ways that we can actually fund some additional projects beyond what was promised in the bond. We're working right now with Energy Trust to see if we can replace some old light fixtures with new LED fixtures in the classrooms at the junior high school as well as at some of our other schools. And so we're kind of cautiously optimistic at this point that we'll be able to complete even more than what was originally promised in the bond. On the seismic projects, those they're completed. We have now paid girding the last bills for both of those, and so they're in the books, and the schools are looking great. So we're excited to have those behind us. Moving on to safety, we had no reportable incidents during the month of June.
All right, any questions for Kevin? Okay, guess we'll move on to the budget committee vacancies, Kevin.
Okay, as far as for the budget committee, we can have a budget committee of as many as 18 people. That would include all 9 board members plus 9 budget committee members. Currently, we only have position number 9, Colden Everett, which represents Sweet Home Field. Don Hopkins had served for Holly. His term just ended, and so I would encourage you, if you know of people that are interested in serving on the budget committee. We don't have to have 18 people total. Really, we only need to have 9, but it is a great way that people can be involved. It's also a great way for people that might be considering in the future serving on the school board to kind of get an idea of how the school district operates, the budget. And so, if you know of people that are interested, please mention it to them.
All right, next we've got facilities update, Josh.
All right, thank you. So as Tom mentioned earlier, we've measured all spaces throughout the district to determine what the actual physical size of the rooms are. And as ODE regulations, I mean, right now we know what they're saying, but as they roll out, we can use this information as a guideline for Tom to be able to determine how we're going to do what he was talking about earlier. I've been working with Tom on, I don't know, for lack of better words, a drop dead date that I have to know what we're going to do in these classes, because there's kind of clutter in a lot of classes that it's not bad clutter, but it's just classes that have rugs in there for rug time, or they have extra furniture in there that we're going to have to get moved out of a lot of classrooms if we really need to use all that square footage. So Tom and I have been working on that. Been working on process and procedures for, like Tom mentioned, also for enhancing the cleaning schedule and how to clean between cohorts and try to keep germs from one cohort not getting to another one. So if we end up having a class have to stay home, it's just the one group instead of having to be an entire school. Been working and stockpiling products that we need for this cleaning. And I'll show you that I got in my video in a little bit. I did a little quick part that show the piles of cleaning supplies, and I got more ordered that we're waiting for. So we're trying to be ready for next year, whatever that may look like. So along with the prep for next year, we're continuing to work on projects throughout the district. We're installing cameras that Nate Tyler procured for both the Husky field and for the new gymnasium. And that'll help with however the sporting events might look then. If we're not able to have people in there, this will be able to, people be able to watch sporting events better. And then we are installing and painting trim out at Foster right now to finish work that wasn't quite completed last summer. There was some miscellaneous stuff throughout Foster School that we're finishing up right now. And we're remodeling spaces at the junior high. There were the BLS room, the teacher's room, the art room, different spaces that were taken off the girding contract to save money. So the district's doing those. And then also, if you guys remember, the junior high had that early rain storm that came through and did a bunch of damage. And so we're also removing a bunch of trim that got ruined, ceiling tile, and redoing all that stuff. So we got a lot on our plate we got going on right now. And then Kevin mentioned also the LED lighting. We're in the process of trying to see what we can do without having to hit our budget to upgrade to LED lighting. And I don't know if you guys remember what it looked like out at Foster after we put those new LED lights in there, but it looked really, really sharp. And so we're hoping to do something like that at the junior high right now. So when people come back at the end of summer, the junior high is good to go. And then we're working our way throughout the district, changing everything to LED. Any questions on that? And then I got a little short video I'll show you guys if you don't have any questions. Nothing. Can you guys see that? Okay. So we'll take a quick peek down to the junior high to see what's going on, and you can see where we got all the tile up off the hall floors in the existing part of the building, and they are working on polishing the floors so they will match the new construction going all the way down through the halls. They'll all match. In here where the BLS room will be, we're polishing these floors also. Over there is where the teacher's lounge will be. And you can see we got some natural light we added in, coming in from that little small courtyard that was by the office. We'll poke our heads around into the, what was the admin area. Go through that small courtyard and into this space, and this is what will be the art room. That there will be the green room. We got a small room in the corner over there. There'll be another restroom, and this is going to be the beautiful big art room. This work's been being done by the district employees, and then we'll poke our heads in the gym real quick and into the cafeteria so you can see where they're coming on the girding side, wrapping that stuff up. Walking towards the cafeteria, we got pallets and pallets and pallets of drop ceiling. So where was all this old drop ceiling? It'll all be new. So it'll match throughout the whole school, down through the hallways. Classrooms get new drop ceilings. Going into the cafeteria, looks amazing. We got the door going into the library here. We got the seating area around the sides, looking out over the beautiful view out there. If we come on down past the new admin area, we can poke our head in the gym here. You guys can get a look at what the floors look like. They look awesome. Look at that.
Oh, you're steady.
Got brown stain going around inside that area. In the middle, all the different lines for the different sports. It's beautiful in here. And if we come down the new corridor next to the gym where the restrooms are, new drinking fountain, we'll poke our head in the locker room here. You can see it's looking good in here. Look at the benches all in. It's ready for the lockers to be set up on top of there. So Tom said you guys might also like to see what we're doing as far as prepping for next year. We're not exactly sure what it's going to look like, but we're trying to prep the best we can. So here we go. We got ourselves in the warehouse here, boxes and boxes of hand sanitizer. We've got cases and cases of the just dispensers that we're going to get put up. We got pallets of wipes. We have, I think, 9,000 disposable face masks. A lot of people will be using the reusable ones. We have a whole pallet of face tissues. And we have, see here, face shields. We got a whole bunch of face shields for people that that's their choice instead of a face mask. And we are about ready to rock and roll. We're getting plexiglass shields put up and everything else we need so that we can open up when the fall comes. Any questions from that? All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Josh. Next, we have the board policy updates. This is the second reading, so we can take action on this tonight. We'll need to actually move it to an action item if we do, but we don't have to until next month. Has there been any communication with you, Tom, regarding any of these?
No, no, there hasn't been any communication since the last board meeting. And I'd like to remind the board that these policies updates have been through the OSBA, Oregon School Board Association team, their legal team. And it's all these are responsive to either state or federal acts or law.
Mr. Chairman, I move we put this on as an action item to take care of tonight.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to move the policy updates to an action item. I'll go around the room again here as it is. Joe Kennedy.
Aye.
And Jenny Daniels.
Aye.
And Mike Reynolds.
Aye.
And Jim Gorley.
Aye.
And Chance Keeney.
Aye.
And I'm also a yes, so we will move that to action item B. So action item A is designate the day, time, and location for official school board meetings for the 2021 school year. Anybody have any strong preference on those?
No objection. I would have moved they be the same as it's been second Monday of each month at 6:30 p.m. in district office.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that item? All right, I will go around the room again. So Joe Kennedy, how do you vote?
Aye.
Okay, and Jenny Daniels
Aye.
and Mike Reynolds
Aye.
and Jim Gorley
Aye.
and Chance Keeney.
Aye.
I am also a aye, so motion passes. We'll meet second Monday of the month, 6:30, district office. All right, and action item B, those board policy updates. We'll take action on those.
Chairman.
Motion to approve.
Okay, second.
Okay, so we got Jim as the motion and Mike as the second. Any discussion on any of those items?
I'm sorry, I thought that was Mike on the first and Jim on the second.
No, it was me on the first.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we'll go around the room again. Joe Kennedy, how do you move?
Aye.
Okay, and Jenny Daniels,
Sally Pie,
and Mike Reynolds,
Aye.
and Jim Gorley,
Aye.
Chance Keeney,
Aye.
and I am also an aye, so the motion passes. Do we have any board comments tonight? I see nobody speaking up. All right, we don't have any late items either. So future agenda items, next board officer meeting is August 3rd, 2020 at 3:30. I probably won't be there for that one, but I can message in or whatever needs to happen there, Tom. I'm gonna be on vacation. So, and then next board meeting will be August 10th at 6:30 at the district office boardroom, unless something changes and we've got to go back to this format again. So from there, barring anything else, I guess we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. I'll be in touch.